linking perception to your mind and your body at the same moment, at the same time. Normally, perception and the mind are separate and distinct ideas and experiences. Ideas are normally linked to the mind, and perception linked to the body. We instead want to link the mind to the body to the mind, idea to perception, and do that through this new way of understanding our experience and experiencing our understanding. We want to link the mind-based ideas of purity and contextuality to the actual bodily experiences of pure and contextual perception. You and your mind are already doing this. You just don't realize that you are doing this. But once you do, and you will have unleashed vast amounts of your own internal resources to build confidence, happiness, and of course, peace. Pure visual perception is instantaneous. Pure auditory perception is also instantaneous. First, we can break down auditory perception. Auditory perception is simply what you hear, There are two categories in auditory perception. The first category, contextual auditory perception, and the second, pure auditory perception. Contextual auditory perception is the reverberation of sound as distinct and unique vibrations that have meaning, as the words I am speaking, the words you are hearing. With pure auditory perception, only sound without meaning. Only sound without meaning. Only sound. Individual sound waves, as reverberations of distinct and individual meaning, are words. The words I am speaking, the words you are hearing. This is auditory contextual perception, and perceptually differentiable by as many distinct word sounds and combinations possible, and is characteristically differentiated, and therefore also is not undifferentiated or instantaneous. Meaning takes time. It takes time to interpret. It is not instantaneous. Pure auditory perception is instantaneous. There is no meaning to interpret. The words I am speaking are contextual. You are perceiving them as meaningful via your contextual auditory perception. Sound waves that carry meaning are distinct word sounds, and any combination possible is carried at the level of contextual auditory perception. Pure auditory perception is the exact opposite of this. It is simply incapable of carrying meaning. Pure visual perception is instantaneous. Pure auditory perception is also instantaneous. Let's try to break down visual perception. Visual perception is simply what you see. Simply what you see. And within the category of the visual, there are two subcategories, one being pure visual perception and the other contextual visual perception. Contextual visual perception requires light as reflected or reflections of color. Pure visual perception is only light, as all visible wavelengths reflected instantaneously and without color differentiation. Individual light waves as reflections of distinct and individual color is contextual visual perception, which is perceptually differentiable by as many distinct colors and color combinations that are possible. All light waves reflected creates the perception of white. No light waves reflected gives the perception of black, the absence of light. Pure visual perception is thereby differentiated by two or by the duality of light and dark, or black and white. Pure visual perception is instantaneous, regardless of whether there is perception of light or perception of the absence of light. Pure visual perception is of light or the absence of light. There is no differentiated light as color, as with contextual visual perception, and there is no true duality, as with the duality of light and dark, because that is created by the mind. Your mind's ability to differentiate light from dark, which is not pure visual perception, but is a function of the mind's interpretation of pure visual perception. The presence of light versus the absence of light. But the perception before interpretation, duality of light and dark, is instantaneous and hence pure. Pure visual perception is one or the other. Pure visual perception is one. It is either black or white, which is one or the other. It is never black and white, which is two. The mind cannot visually perceive black and white at the same moment of perception. It can only physically perceive black or white as two different perceptions. The mind creates the differentiation ideationally, as an idea, as a fantasy, as an illusion. The words I am speaking are contextual. You are perceiving them as meaningful via your contextual auditory perception. Pure auditory perception is the exact opposite of this. It is simply incapable of carrying meaning. Pure visual perception is of light or the absence of light. Pure visual perception is one or the other. Pure visual perception is one. It is either black or white, which is one or the other. It is never black and white, which is two. The mind cannot visually perceive black and white. Your mind is only capable of experiencing or perceiving as a pure visual perception, black or white, and never black and white at the same moment, at the same time. Pure black and pure white are always separate, and the perception of this black or white is instantaneous. Pure white is one, or the other is one. This or black, they are each one or the other. They are one. It is only your mind that holds on to either separate, pure visual impression, and then maintains both impressions, differentiates them contextually, and overlays the idea or representation of the pure impression, and not the actual experience, one onto the other. But this is no longer a pure perception. It is instead contextual visual perception. It differentiates white and black instead of only purely perceiving black or white. Pure visual perception is instantaneous. Pure auditory perception is also instantaneous. Your mind's ability to differentiate light from dark, sound from silence, which is not pure visual or pure auditory perception, but is still a function of the mind's interpretation as contextual or differentiated perception, and is not pure visual or pure auditory perception. Pure perception is of light, sound, or the absence of. The absence of is still perception. Both are pure perceptions. And it is your mind's interpretation and perceived selection as differentiating between light or dark, sound or silence, and the actual perception of the absence of sound or the absence of light. Your mind differentiates either pure perception, whether it is visually pure or auditorily pure. The mind says auditorily, this one or that one, sound or the absence of sound. Or the mind identifies visually, this one or that one, light or the absence of light. Differentiation is the mind's primary and fundamental ability. And if you are to have peace, and if you are to reach that fundamental level of being, where peace comes dropping slow, then it is crucial you understand how that mind impacts your experience. You must understand your experience and experience your understanding. The two are one. However, your mind differentiates the experience via thought in an attempt to understand the experience, but it is unable to complete the circuit, experiencing understanding and understanding experience, because it prioritizes the understanding over the experience or the experience over the understanding, when in fact they are both one. They are both one and the same.